You know, it's always fun on a Friday to have a talented person like yourself on my show.
Oh my goodness. I will take that any day of the week.
Before we jump into all of this, I have to give out to some love to a very, very good friend of mine that you have a song with, John Oates. I have been friends with John Oates for many, many years, and I just found out that you did a duet with him, or you wrote a song with him.
Yeah, John's a great guy. I've written several songs with him, actually. We've had a few hits together. And the first day we met was I brought him a song I was working on called Let the Rain. And we finished it together. We wrote the chorus together, and it was our first hit. It was on Billboard for 22 weeks, and we've been friends ever since, actually, because he's just such a generous artist and a darling guy, and so is his wife, Amy, and he even performed at my wedding. So we performed together at my wedding, and we sang Let the Rain.
Wow.
Really magnificent.
Wow.
Yeah, so how do you know John?
Well, I've had John on my show, forever. So, and I'm trying to get in the band. I want to play like tambourine or triangle. But now you and I are friends, so maybe I'll still get in the band.
Yes, exactly. You just might get in the band, I mean, with John, he does a pretty pared down show, so he might let you play tambourine.
He just might have me stand in the back because I'm kind of a tall guy. He's like, Steve, go in the back. You're going to block all the lights.
Yeah, most definitely. He's going to do that. Yeah. John and I, there's a YouTube video of John and I performing Let the Rain at the Ryman, which is the Grand Ole Opry, basically, the Ryman Auditorium. And so we're perfectly matched because we're not too different in height. Although when I'm in heels, there's a little challenge there.
Right. He is like one of the sweetest guys that I know. And when they were on tour with Tears for Fears this past summer, I got a chance to see him again perform. Always a great show. Daryl Hall and John Oates, one of the great shows ever that you can see.
I got a chance to see that show. John called me and told me that he was coming, and I took some friends, and it was just magnificent. I couldn't agree more. That was a fantastic show, and I really got to say, I've been watching them for years, but there was something very special about this particular tour. Daryl Hall just had a light about him that I haven't seen in a while. It was like he was a kid again. It was really wonderful, and I think it was just because it was a double bill. I mean, this would be my guess. It was a double bill, and there was an arena involved instead of, a lot of older bands are not playing big arenas anymore. And this was just like, like they were kids again. It was really fantastic. There was a lot of excitement, and the arrangements. John wrote She's Gone, and the arrangement that they do on stage live for She's Gone is just absolutely sublime.
Now, do they have a song that you would like to record?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. My favorite song is One-on-One. So I don't know if you know that song.
Of course I do.
On the scene. Oh, it seems I don't get out anymore. Oh. Love that song.
It's a great song, and if you need somebody in a video, I'm your guy.
Yeah. Well, you're tall. You're going to have to stand in the back. But no problem.
That's how it always works. All you women that are 5'3" and us guys that are 6'3", we just can't be in the pictures anymore.
Oh, well, I could wear some 5-inch heels. Maybe we could make it work.
That or I could just sit.
Which is not unlike me to wear the big spiky heels anyway.
Now, were you nervous performing with someone like John? I also know that you've performed with some top names out there. Is it nerve-wracking to work with guys like John and others?
It's all based on the personality, and honestly, John is like I said, he's such a generous artist that he is a great collaborator, and he's very gifted, and one of his favorite things to do is collaborate. And so, I'm a better songwriter for having worked with him. I learned a lot just in let's see, we've written about 5 songs together, and we work very fast. And so, which is also nice. But he just brings out the best in you, and he creates a safe environment. Kind of like a director who who creates a good environment for
Right.
exploration for his actors.
Sure.
It's the same kind of thing. You know, he knows what he's bringing tenure-wise to this game, and if you don't get inside your head too much and like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm writing with John, or I'm doing whatever, it's it's all based on the attitude and the personality, and he is exactly what you see. When he picked me up in Aspen was the first time we wrote together.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to have to pick you up somewhere because you're going to lose cell service getting out here, and it's just easier if I pick you up.
Right.
Okay. So he picks me up in some kind of like four-wheel drive wagon. I want to say it's a Subaru, but I really have no idea what it is. And he's got jeans on, like kind of like motorcycle boots, and a T-shirt.
Right.
And that's exactly who he is. I mean, that is who John is. He just, if he's not wearing that, he's wearing like some kind of plaid number. And he jokes around with me all the time. He's like, I'm not kidding. I got a little redneck in me. I definitely am very, he's got the blue, the down home thing, I would say. I wouldn't call it redneck at all, but I sang the national anthem for Talladega.
Right.
For NASCAR, and that's on YouTube as well. And I am not kidding. This is like 3 million people. Just minutes after I got off stage, he calls me. He calls my phone, and then he sends me a text and says, he's just congratulating me and saying, you did it justice. Because a lot of singers, they like to just rewrite a song. And for me, that song means so much to so
Right.
many different people in different ways. And I'm a naturalized citizen. So I don't want to screw with the song too much. I mean, I could vocalize all over it, but that's what other songs are for.
Right.
When you start messing with that song, sometimes it messes with the emotion behind what other people are perceiving. And so I just want my voice to shine through and do the song justice and give it the honor that it deserves. And just minutes after, he said, hey, congratulations, way to nail it. And I told you I was a redneck. I'm sitting here watching Talladega.
That's funny. That's pretty funny. So how would you describe your music? Like, we could easily describe John and some of the other people that you've sang with. How would you describe your music?
Well, I created my own genre because people kept asking me what my music sounds like, and my genre is called Organica, like organic with an A at the end of it.
Right.
And I founded the record label by the same name. It's basically pop music for adults that's deeply rooted in jazz with rock and ambient, lush vocals like mine, strong vocals, but it's all made by humans, not machines. So, I was launched a lot on, radio stations that play, John Mayer play me,
right.
or even who play Nora Jones play me, or even as far as Pink play me. But I am my own machine. I'm my own thing. So, you just got to check it out. It's just a beautiful, unorthodox hybrid of my deepest influences, which is, jazz and rock and roll.
Yeah,
because it would seamlessly go right next to Steely Dan, like it would go seamlessly next to a John Mayer or a Hall & Oates.
I was going through some of your music before you came on.
The best part about it is that it's all created live on stage.
Yep.
That's what I really love. I believe that music is a living organism, and when you bring it to an audience, it's going to change every single night because you're feeding off the energy of the audience, and so the song will slightly vary, based on your ebb and flow, your reciprocity with the audience.
So how do you?
I love that.
So how do you do that in the studio then? Since obviously your live performance is really what created you, and that's where your voice is maximized. So how do you do that in a studio when you're writing music with someone or you're sitting down in front of the piano?
I don't. It's funny because I've spoken with a lot of writers, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just write what fits my range." And it's so funny. My songs aren't born that way. My songs are born out of sometimes the melody and the lyric come all at once. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll have the chorus. That happens the most, is I have the chorus first. And I tend to write it exactly in the key that it came to me in. And sometimes I think, oh, well, Margo, you don't have to sing it in this key. You could raise it up or bring it down for texture. I feel like the song lets me know what it wants. And I don't write too much in the studio. I will arrange a little bit. I'll tweak arrangements here and there. But I definitely write in like a writer's studio where it's just me and one instrument, or me and a guitarist. And honestly, my best instrument is my voice. I've written string arrangements and horn arrangements with my voice. I get someone to copy it, like be a copyist for me, and then I put it in front of a string section, or I put it in front of a horn player, or I sing it to my guitarist, and my guitarist plays what I sing, and it's just, I feel like my voice will never lead me astray. I can play instruments for the sake of writing. I have knowledge of music, but for me, there's a lot more freedom in me writing with my voice and then settling out the details later.
Are you your toughest critic?
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But are you your toughest critic? Can you sing something, record it, and then can you, like, let me use my show for an example. I don't really listen to any of my shows because I'm too critical of myself. I'm like, I should have asked this question. I could have done this. Are you that way as well?
I think there's a great time and place for that. But there's also a time to just trust. I believe that in the recording studio, when I'm trying to get the final product and I want to mix and I want to capture the essence, I don't like to overdo something either. I won't do a million takes of one thing. Not at all. I mean, for me, I'm going to warm up with the song, and then I'll do a couple of takes. But I feel like I want to definitely capture the right vibration because I know that you're committing it to tape. And honestly, sometimes I get the majority of the take all in one take, just because that's the one where I was flying high and just really zipping along with the melody.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I leave the sound booth and go into the mixing room, it's like I have a different set of ears, I have a different hat on, and that's when it's time to be critical, but kind.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not there to defeat my own purpose and be too critical that I'm just, okay, now I've just dug myself into pushed myself into a corner. You know when it's right, and you know when it's not. It's good to have that set of ears, but definitely when I'm behind the mic, that is not the time I've noticed for me to be super critical. That's the time for me to flow and freestyle and just feel the energy of the song. And then when I'm behind the sound booth behind the mixing board as a producer, that's when it's like, oh, okay, well, I can jump back there and do this chorus a little differently. I also don't cookie cutter paste things. In pop music, oftentimes producers will have a singer sing the chorus once, and that's it. They just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And they're like, oh, okay, now you can do some ad-libs over the end. I don't like that. I like, even if it's a pop song, I like singing all the choruses. Mm-hmm. I really do. I feel like the song has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I want that chorus to grow. So the first chorus, it's going to feel like this. The second chorus is going to have a little bit more emotion behind it. By the last chorus, you're finished telling the story, and you're really driving it home. So for me, copy and paste, that doesn't work for me, personally.
Yeah, it's just shortcuts. They all do it.
Yeah, and I get it. It's cost prohibitive, or sometimes singers just don't have those nuances. Or they have no desire to do it that way. I mean, everybody's got their process. But I have found that a lot of producers or engineers that I've worked alongside with are like, wow, you know how rare that is. That's really cool. I get it now. I see why you're doing that. And I'm like, yeah, it's just nuance. Now you don't feel like, okay, I've heard it. Time to switch station or whatever.
So who is your influence when you started all this? Who did you listen to?
You would have to, I would have to talk about what style of music I was going for. I'm the youngest of 5 children.
Okay, that means you're spoiled.
No, it doesn't actually, because they were all kind of grown up and leaving the house, and both my parents worked, so a lot of ways I was kind of a latchkey kid. But when you're the youngest, you don't really have control over the radio. You know what's going to be played on the radio, and so unlike now where everyone's got their own personal device, and so my brothers, they influenced me with rock and roll. My sisters did not listen to hard rock. They listened to, I guess, what you would call adult contemporary now.
Mm-hmm.
They listened to a lot of the really good, like, golden age songwriters, like the Carly Simons and the Stevie Wonders and the Michael Jacksons and the Carole Kings, of that time, and that really influenced me. But when I was a baby, I listened to a lot of crooners. I'm a very close friend of the family who was in a wheelchair, and I was a toddler, and so I just sat on the floor next to her while she listened to Nat King Cole and Johnny Mathis and Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald, and that was some of the biggest American musical impressions of my life. And I mean, think about it. I'm only like 2 years old, and this is the music that she's unable to walk because she suffered a stroke, and she was a very young woman, and so that was her joy time, was to sit there and listen to her stereo and tap her, what body parts could move. She'd tap along, and I'm just a child, so I'm totally immersed in this music, and I have no idea what it is, but I know that it makes me feel a certain way, and perhaps that is why, as a performer, I still gravitate toward the lushness of jazz, even if I'm singing another genre of music. If I'm singing rock, I'm still going to approach it like a serious, improvisational jazz musician,
That's really interesting. What type of teenager were you then?
To stay stagnant.
So now let's move you to your teenage years, where that's
Right.
probably where I would say whatever we listen to in our teenage years is what we listen to later in life. The people that are very big on the 80s music, that's what we grew up on. That's what we listened to. So we continue to wear 80s music. So what type of teen were you in? What were you listening to then? Because obviously what you listened to at 2 and 5 and as a toddler, I would think would be different as a teenager.
Yeah. Well, okay, so when I was a teenager, I was studying, and I had about 13 years of classical training. So in school, naturally, I was performing art songs and arias. I sung in 8 languages.
Oh.
However, everything's new. You want everything to be, the whole world is just bursting open for you. And I listened to whatever was alternative, whether it was rock. I guess what was then classic rock, because I grew up in Texas, there, on the radio, you couldn't really get anything alternative. So it's like what now people call classic rock.
Right.
So that was constantly on the radio, and it wasn't, I feel like it was classic rock back then. There was a lot of rock musicians I didn't even know were dead yet. Like I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix, and I had no idea he died. Like, I'm just thinking, oh, well, this is cool. But at the same time, that's a deep kind of in the background Texas rock and roll influence, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Muddy Waters and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then some Southern rock as well, AC/DC. I love AC/DC. But I always searched for something alternative, and that's when I really liked, punk, and I really liked ska,
Sure.
and I really liked, Laurie Anderson, or I loved Depeche Mode, or, just whatever I could get my hands on that was different. That's like, what is this? These sounds are different, and I want to. Now I just have to go to the concert if I really want to get my fill. Like Bjork. I remember when the first time I saw Bjork, she was in a band called the Sugar Cubes.
Yep.
And I just remember staring at her, and I was completely fascinated. And this other guy that was in the Sugar Cubes, I don't know his name, but he played trumpet, and he screamed and yelled, and he was just really loud. And I just remember going, that guy needs to be quiet. And she's fascinating. Like, I can't stop staring at her. And what the heck is he doing in this band? Well, obviously the Sugar Cubes ran their course, and the Bjork became Bjork.
Right.
And I just, David Bowie, I mean, there's another one.
Yep.
I love any artist that truly, truly embodies something that is an amalgamation of all their influences, yet they have this really fantastic, unique characteristic. I mean, no one ever goes, oh, that guy, not too many David Bowies walking around, not too many Bjorks walking around. Someone who has their own sound and can back it up with their talent, not just flash.
Hey, on a personal level, how tough were you to date as a teenager and stuff? I would think you would be one tough girl to date back in those days.
Wow, that's such a bizarre question. Well, when I was a teenager, I didn't really call it dating. My dad was really strict, like really strict. Like I had to go everywhere with my brother, so I actually kind of grew up as one of the, like a really feminine girl, but like one of the guys' girls, because my brother had a lot of friends, and if I wanted to go somewhere, my dad's like, "You're taking your sister." I'm sure it was like the bane of my brother's existence at the time. We're 18 months apart. And also, he was like, "Stay away from my sister." He was always kind of punching people in the arm. But I was very well protected. So maybe I was tough to date that way because there was like this Fort Knox around me of like brothers and brothers' friends. But was I picky and high maintenance? I don't know.
No, but if you were to take, like what we do as teenagers in our 20s, I would take a girl to a concert. But you would be difficult to take. I would think for a regular guy, because I was doing the same thing you were. We're just totally analyzing the scene. We're getting into all of that and why they're singing this. Why is he playing that? That's kind of where my point was. I would think it would be kind of difficult back then.
I would say I did a ton of that. I did an absolute ton of that, and I usually went to concerts. I've been in a rock band and a band. I've been a band leader. I mean, since before I was old enough to be in clubs. So I usually went with other musicians, and my first band was all female. So that was really easy, and that was always fun.
Right.
We toured the country and even went overseas, and that's your own clique. I mean, there's nothing like doing everything as a band.
Yep.
There's just nothing like it. You can get on each other's nerves and throw the occasional music stand, but I actually did a lot of my concert going with my bandmates because that's when we could go, was when we weren't on a night that we weren't performing.
See, that's fun.
So yeah, you're right. I did a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I guess you're just kind of with like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
I don't like it when people are like, "Oh, that sucks. Oh, that's overproduced. Oh, this is," it's like, okay, stop it. Just go for the positive and go for that. Doesn't serve anyone, and it just sounds like sour grapes anyway.
Right. That's what social media does. It's just people just want to bitch, and they have keyboard muscles and things of that sort. They don't really enjoy what's out there. It's just, I just want to criticize everything.
That's funny, keyboard muscles.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't guilty of that on occasion, because there were definitely some bands I didn't like that some of my bandmates did like, and I would kind of roll my eyes and go to the concert. But sometimes I would go to concerts that I was like, "Ugh, okay, let's go." And then I was really pleasantly surprised. So, there's always something to learn, and there's always something to feel. And I think it's just better to just share in the successes instead of waller in the negativity,
Margo, thank you so much for being on the show. I'll follow up with you, and we'll have you back on in January.
Thank you. Thank you so much.